is a quick DM West run through. Yep, I started recording a little bit late, so you missed the first couple tree polls, and our Warlock was running late, so they haven't quite got to the group yet. But I figured I'd make a quick run through just to kind of explain what's going on, and so people can see the run. The guy I'm pulling now, when he dies, the bigger ones blow up and do a... It was a really bad pull, by the way. I pulled way too many. But the big ones die and blow up and do a mana burn, so anyone with mana that's nearby them loses all their mana and takes that for damage. And they also do that arcane attack. You can see them spamming. If range stays far enough back, it won't hit them. So, that's also really helpful for the range to know. I'm running with two of my guildies. That's pretty much all my guild is 2 people. That's why you see the 2 threat meters, is because of we run with different guilds for raiding, and they use different threat meters. And then I just found out a third guild we run with uses a 3rd threat meter, so soon I'll have 3 threat meters up on my screen for no good reason. Generally you clear out all the trees right at the beginning. A lot of times it'll take them forever to pat around, and we got bored, so we started pulling the guys around the pylon there. The trees are pretty simple. When they knock you back, though, like most knockbacks in Classic, have a threat drop, so whenever you get knocked back, expect to need to taunt or expect it to be run off and hitting somebody else. I sped the video up. It's twice the speed because no one wants to watch 45-minute run, 42-minute run. Here I got stuck in the air. I should have just shifted out and picked it up, but like I knew my healer could heal through it and I didn't want to give up my rage. But like it really wouldn't have taken me that long to get rage back. Later on I think it happens again, and I will shift out just to drop to the ground and get down to taunt it back. These trees come through at like different rates, but it's really good to try and pull them on the first round because of if you miss one, they're just so slow. Either you have to chase them down or you have to wait for them to come around again. And there's, I think 2 of them go opposite directions of the rest, so when you're running around to try and get to them, sometimes we'll be chasing and not catch up. You can see our Warlock just got to the group and gave me a health stone. If you look at the bottom of my screen, I have a macro that looks like Holy Nova. That's for throwing holy water on the ground during the strat runs. And then I have a swirly macro that you'll see me hit every now and then. Like during the last tree, it didn't look like I shifted out to get out of the roots, but I did. The swirly macro will shift me out, use health potions and health stones, and shift me right back in. So it's an instant thing, and it pretty much takes my health from low to full. You can see we picked up some ghosts here. It's because generally our Warlock always makes sure to have detect invisibility on, which you can see they just threw on me when we picked up the ghosts. If you have a Warlock in the group, they'll cast that at the beginning so that you don't have to worry about being surprised by any of those pink ghosts. Here we've got the other variety of ghosts. None of these ones are invisible. The Banshee looking one does a constant AoE and silence. The blue one, which now they're all blue because of Blizzard, spams a mana burn, which is a big pain. And the green ones spam frost bolts, which is super annoying because it slows you consistently. You would think usually that like this area would be nice for paladins, but because of the silence and the mana burns, it's actually terrible. This whole run it actually is no fun at all on a paladin tank. That's why I'm in here on my druid. Usually I run on my warrior now, but like for if you're doing we aren't doing the warlock mount one, but on a druid it's a lot easier just because you get the instant rage and you have the swipe to hit multiple targets. Druids are great tanks because of they're the easiest by far. Our Warlock marking the invisible ones right away. Pretty common for them. If you don't have detect invisibility, just know that there's a bunch of those pink ghosts randomly padding around. Generally, if you're pulling stuff off to the side like this, you won't end up pulling them, but they will be padding around the room, so just be aware to run around a bit to pick them up when you're looking for mobs. Our healers are priests, so they shackle some of them, which is always kind of nice. I keep mousing over the screen because I'm always in the habit of mousing around while I play. Until I watched this, I didn't realize how disorienting it might be for other people because I shift the screen around so much to look around. If you are playing a druid and you have a priest that actually shackles for you, just make sure you pay attention because you don't want to swipe the shackles and break them right away. So drag the mobs away a bit. Yeah, we didn't get the rare this run. If the rare is up, it's kind of right behind where I'm looking now. It'll be directly behind me. If you looked earlier, like I glanced over there real quick. I actually pull with my hurricane every now and then. Apparently a lot of people think that's weird for druids to do that, but like if you have a group of mobs, I figure you might as well get a little initial threat on them all right away to make sure it's not going after your healer or anything right off. And usually, mana isn't an issue when you're a tank because while you're tanking, it just builds back up for you. I pulled all of these groups. You can actually skip this group. Usually I do now. You just run behind the statue to line of sight the boss when you tag it, and it'll come running to you. I was clearing out everything this run because we have Warlock and Priest, both of which have fears, and we don't want to get feared into all the mobs because the boss has a mind control, and so we just figured to be safe we'd clear everything out this run. At this point in the game, most of the people you'll be playing with are better geared, which makes tanking harder. Makes it more important to remember to mark a skull, which I generally forget because I'm lazy. I have a macro for that. You can see it down there at the bottom. But marking a skull makes your job easier as a tank if people focus it like they're supposed to. When you skip it, it's faster, but it certainly adds a bit more hassle to what you're doing because everyone always, for some reason, chooses a different random mob. It's very rare for them all to target the same mob for some reason. I was checking our mage to see, whether or not their cloak was better than the one that dropped. That mage we don't usually run with. The female mage we run with pretty often. Like I said, the priest and the warlock are my guildies. They pretty much are my entire guild. We're really small. We just fill in for other raid groups or for other guilds in raid groups. And then on my druid, I don't have any raid gear. I think I have a necklace from a Nixie actually, but nothing else just because of I don't run raids on it. I mostly raid on my paladin and a little bit on my warrior now that it's max level. Pulling these groups, we got one of the extra ghosts. They're, mildly inconvenient, but it's not a big deal. And I'm a little bit too close with this big guy. I guess this isn't one of the big ones because it did the blink. But in general, you want to tank these a little ways away just so that the arcane missile attack isn't hitting anybody and the mana burn explosion doesn't hit your DPS, especially when they're casters. Like you can see, the mage ran up close again and got hit by the missile blast. It looks like they probably got hit by the mana burn too, but they might have just been low on mana. In case you're unfamiliar with DM West, you have to make sure to go around and pull all these guys around these pylons. The pylons are, according to the lore, they're up to siphon the energy from the demon boss that's down in the bottom of the run. And while they're up, you just can't pull that boss. So you have to get all of the pylons down in order to do that boss. And you can't do Prince Therazan, I think is his name, because of when the pylons are up and the demon's enslaved so they can drain its energy, he's not mad at you. Once you ruin his method of siphoning magic energy from the demon, then you can actually aggro him and fight him. So you have to do all of the pylons in order to do the last two bosses. A lot of people run and do the tree boss first just because he's the closest boss when you enter the run, but I always do him after the top part up here, because otherwise you run down, kill the tree boss, and then run back up here, and then run back down to that area and go through the door. I think it's just quicker to come up here first, do all this, go down, kill him, and continue on. If you saw the first time I pulled these, I pulled them with Hurricane, but Hurricane was too small, so I missed a few and they all ran off right away. This time I just ran in and pulled them and used my challenging roar, my demoralizing roar, which gives me a little threat, keeps them off the healer, but everybody's geared well enough that causes problems. As you can see, my bags are always full. Also, the mage hates having pets, so I made sure to shoot a pedal feet to them. In general, when you're like watching mana to see whether or not you should be bowling, you pretty much only have to watch your healer's mana. The DPS, if they start DPSing without drinking, then they won't do much damage and it's their fault. So they'll usually drink. As a tank, it's sometimes nice to be able to pull while your DPS is drinking, because that way they don't pull off you right away. You have a second to build up threat. Our healer will stop and drink between every time combat drops, which is great for any healer to do. That way his mana is full and we aren't waiting on between pulls as often. Helps speed up the run. This pull I actually did wrong. I forgot which one was CCable, so I asked our priest to try and CC the hunter instead of our mage to CC the bear. The bear is sheepable, so you can just have, if you have a mage in the group, you can have them sheep the bear and just kill them separate. If you don't have a mage in the group or whatever else, if you just have everybody stack, the bear doesn't do its charges, and it's really easy. All around, this fight's pretty easy. The only challenge with this fight is the aggro radius of the boss is super large, so it's easy to pull on by mistake. If you're going up there to clear to look for a tome or whatever, make sure you pull the boss before you try pulling anything else up there, because everything else up there will pull, or not everything else up there. The boss will definitely pull as soon as you get near it. You can see it was Valentine's when I did this run, so a while ago, and I have a bunch of useless Valentine's stuff in my bags. If it wasn't Valentine's stuff, it'd be other stuff. My bags are always full. I'm really bad about keeping them empty. I don't remember. Sometimes I forget one of the trees. If you have a warlock in the group, you don't really have to be super cautious about getting all the trees before you do this boss, because when they run in, you can just have a warlock banish one, just to make sure you get most of them. If you don't have a warlock in the group, it's best to make sure you've gotten all the tree paths before you come down here and do this boss, because if you haven't gotten them all, they'll all aggro and run down while you're fighting the boss. And with the roots and stuff, it can be pretty annoying, because they're obviously going to run straight to your healer and you'll be rooted at the boss. The boss can also teleport you to it, so yeah. In here again, all the purple ones are invisible unless you have detect invisibility on. And we run with Warlock all the time, so we usually have it. It's super handy. The other dungeon where that's really useful is the Undead Strat. Strat Live too, but there's not as much of it. But there's the something eye that'll spot any living and summon 2 gargoyles if you don't kill it really quick. But it's invisible, so if you just have a Warlock with detect invisibility, you can see it and kill it quicker and easier. You don't have to worry about it messing up any of your pulls. These guys, anymore everyone's got high enough DPS, you can just burn everything down, but we're still in the habit of having our warlock banish the big one. Not anymore, but when I was doing this run, we were. As you can see, like, we killed everything else quickly enough, and then another weird thing about these, if you're a druid and you're trying to pull with your other abilities, use Wrath, because while these look like they're wind and they'd be nature elementals, they're actually arcane torrents, so your Moonfire doesn't actually work. They're immune to it. Yeah, they're actually arcane elementals. Most of the elementals in here are. These guys and all the little pats you can see, and the guys around the pylons are all arcane elementals. And again, like, when he casts his like hurricane there, like, I just run away from it. Like, usually I have decent threat on him, and there's no reason to hang out in that to try and build more threat. He's not going to run off. He may target some other people, but it's not really a big deal. Just run back in and taunt him if he does. But it's a lot better to stay out of that so your healer's not wasting mana. This is pretty much how you want these pulls to go, just 2 at a time. The little guys have Chain Lightning and their little blink behind you ability. The bigger guys, like I said, have that Arcane Missile ability and the Mana Burn AoE on their death. There's actually a lot of good healing gear in here for anyone, but especially for like paladins. And so I'd love to run it as my paladin, but these guys make the run take forever because every time they die, they blow up and drain all your mana, and then you have to drink. And then, like I said, those undead ones, which you would think the paladin would be great at, spam, silence, and mana burn, which makes them not much fun either. As you saw, like, one of our mages just went AFK for a minute. Like, it really doesn't matter. The mobs here are spread out. You don't really have to worry about pulling a bunch of extra stuff by mistake or anything. And all the pulls are relatively simple. If someone needs to go AFK, as long as it's not the healer or the tank, you can just keep going. Yeah. I don't know if I will or not. A lot of times I use that statue to line of sight just to prevent the smaller ones from casting their Chain Lightning and not coming to me right away. Looks like I'm just running up and pulling everything close to keep them away from the DPS. For whatever reason, that one mage loves to get up close. And it's good for the video, I guess, because you can see that causes them to take a bunch of extra damage. The arcane missiles it does is an AoE, and it'll hit any nearby targets. So it's hitting me and the mage all the time, because the mage always is up closer than they should be. They should be back with the other DPS and the healer. Also, that way they don't have to worry about the mana burn on the death. Also, you might notice that I'm not using my Staff of Warden for this run. It's almost all magic damage first, so like there's no point in wearing the Staff of Warden. And also, Alex, as I mentioned, most of the people are fairly well geared at this point, and so the threat's more important. So having the extra hit and crit is what I prefer, so I use that weapon instead of my Staff of Warding. You can't see it, but you can see them on my bars. I change between them on like other fights, like the Butcher in Skolo does a lot of melee physical damage, so popping on the Staff of Warden helps more during that fight, or like when you're in raids and they're doing physical damage, Staff Warden's really good. But if they're mostly magic damage, there's no reason to wear it. Like, if you have another weapon that's got like extra crit on it or extra hit or anything else that you'd rather have, put that on instead. I was debating taking those gloves because they got the improved chance to dodge on them, and I've got the extra critical on my gloves. I ended up sticking with the critical. The critical gives you rage as a druid, and being rage starved is always an issue. Also, getting hit gives you rage. Like dodging doesn't give you rage. So, the not getting hit as often is obviously good, but it's kind of a balancing act. Also, as druids, you have the largest health pool, so like being hit isn't such a big deal. You've got plenty of time for your healers to heal you up. Paladins actually have the smallest health pool generally and take the most damage because they don't have the 10% reduction from defensive stance, and they don't have as many mitigation abilities. So for them, like picking up extra dodge and stuff is probably more important, but it's also, if you're dodging, you aren't blocking, and blocking is where most of Paladin's threat comes from. But that was a quick run through DM West. Hopefully this video is not terrible and I didn't mumble and ramble on too much. I tried to talk through it so you aren't just staring at the screen. I tried to point out random tips so you know the mechanics a little better. But yep, that's the run. Have a good one, everybody. Bye.